This week on the NieA show, Japanese pop culture, anime, Serial Experiments Lain.
Inside the mind, viewing from a distance, everything appears fine, but inside.
Hey everybody, welcome to our second in the anime/pop culture topic of the NieA show, a water cooler show where we sell water coolers to you.
Only good ones, though. The highest quality water coolers.
Only the kind you've never seen before.
Hopefully they're new to you.
And this week we're featuring Japanese water coolers.
The newest.
We don't do
They're
that.
really small because, they have small living spaces.
We don't sell water coolers, but we do give you topics to talk about around the water cooler because
So the
everyone
joke
has
here
them.
is that Holt always says, hey, we're a water cooler podcast. And I'm always like, people don't even understand what that means because it's such an outdated, phrasing. Why don't we just say, hey, we recommend stuff that we think is good and might have influenced us, and perhaps after hours having spoken about it, you might find it interesting and or inspiring.
Especially if you learn about it in and around like a receptacle that dispenses water.
So very succinct, I think.
Yeah, so how would you update the metaphor?
Here's how I do it. Ready? Hey, guys, you like stuff? We like stuff. Maybe we might like the same stuff. Let me tell you about some stuff.
And here's a paper cup full of water.
Done.
So this stuff that we're talking about is
Hey, guys.
anime.
You tried that water yet? It's great. It reminds me of this TV show. You might like it.
Don't use
It's
the
called Dr.
hot
Slump.
tap with these wax cups. You won't like how it ends up.
No.
I'm John Holt, one of your hosts. Joining me this week is...
Julian Cage.
And Keith Vincent.
And joining us again to continue our topic is...
Taylor Smurl.
All right, Taylor, thanks for joining us again.
Psyched to be here.
And your pick is up on plate. But before we get to that, Jules, what was new to you this week?
New to me this week is the Ricoh Theta S 360 camera.
Whoa.
So I'm holding it right here so that you
So
guys on the radio can see it.
For all of you new to you drinking game people can take a shot because Julian's talking about VR again.
Well, it's not directly VR. It's tangential.
Okay.
So it's a great little handheld camera that has two back-to-back spherical lenses, and you just hit one button, just the shutter like on a camera, and it takes a picture of everything around you.
Stitches it.
And it can take
Yeah.
video too, right?
It can also take video, although the picture quality is pretty nice. The video quality is pretty meh. It's like good enough to like look at it on Facebook, but like if you try to look at it, it's not gonna.
TV.
If you try to look at it like in a VR headset, it will look like garbage. But it's a really fun little camera, and even just now that Facebook and YouTube makes it really easy to work with the format, that's just a really fun way to capture memories and to make interesting looking photos. So it costs about $300. Considering this type of camera is pretty new, I think they nailed it. I think,
cool.
But I'm excited to see.
It interfaces through Bluetooth or something with a phone, or how?
Yeah. You can. There's an app that goes along with it, so you can preview and you can remote, trigger the shutter at a distance, which is kind of nice because it captures everything. Your hand, you always see like your hand at the bottom of it, like at the center of the photo, which is weird. So that's definitely another cool feature, and you can put it on a tripod, and I think you can even get a waterproof case for it. So it's pretty well thought out. So yeah, I would recommend it. It's a lot of fun.
Who makes it? What is it again?
It's Ricoh is the camera company.
Yeah.
It's the Theta S. So they made the Theta, and the S came out shortly after, and it's a lot better.
That must be the sports edition.
Maybe it's the super. I don't know.
No.
And does it put out stuff like, can you look at it like in a Google Cardboard? Like what kind of stuff can you look at it with?
So like I said, you can. I think the easiest way to see it is I think on Facebook has really great support for 360 photo and video, and so it's, you can post it and then you can just click and drag around the image on a computer or on a phone, or if you have a headset of a Google Cardboard or a virtual reality headset, then you can like actually look around the photo like you're inside of it in this funny way, and it's pretty neat.
And then, so that's the one you research tech when you go to buy it. You're pretty good about that.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're our like personal shopper for tech stuff. If someone wanted like the next step up, where should they go?
The next step up things are like, this is really the only like really simple kind of consumer friendly camera that does this, in my opinion. I mean, there's a bunch of other options whose name, and I wouldn't be able to tell you the name of them. There's actually quite a few just for like just quick and easy. This is, I think, the nicest form factor. Because most of the other ones look like little balls, like little spherical things. This one it's more like stick-shaped, and it's just, I think, easy to use and hold.
Cool.
But I think the next step up in terms of quality is there's the, I can't remember.
Canon.
No, it's not Canon.
Lennox.
Well, whatever. It's not that important.
It's the one on top of the Google car
it's a
that
Kodak.
drives around.
It's a Kodak something. Kodak 360 something.
But it's like a little cube.
Yeah, it's a little cube with a really wide angle lens, and it's not full 360, but close enough.
180
And it's
sort of.
more of like an action camera, so it's a little more. It's more like a
GoPro-y.
GoPro-y, but it's more expensive. But it can shoot 4K video, so
Whoa.
it's pretty nice quality.
Crazy. So we'll have Jules get us some pictures of that so we can put it up.
Well, I think maybe he'll take a picture of us in the studio.
Yeah, or some low quality video.
Whoa. And then I
Yeah.
can share it on Facebook like John wants me to all the time.
Yeah.
Promote the show.
Yeah, man. Put us
Look,
out
I
there.
told my mom about it. What else do you want me to do?
She did like one episode once.
Hey, we've had our mom on our show. That's okay.
That's good. It's great to have. I think my mom said that she. I was like, Mom, have you listened to the show? And she's like, well, whenever you talk, your voice puts me to sleep. And I was like, well, that's really nice. I mean,
if you have friends who have trouble sleeping,
yeah,
you can
I'll put together a supercut of my
Soothing
talking.
sounds of New
Hey
Year.
guys, I cannot be more excited to introduce the.
Today, I'm going to talk about Magic the Gathering.
This card is one of my favorites.
I will say that your voice has put me to sleep on a couple of Magic the Gathering discussions.
I think it's partially too because I'm spooning and I'm like caressing your ear. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm giving you an appropriate environment.
Yeah. People can't see how we're arranged here, but it's a really
Yeah, I'm
it's
a little
comfy.
uncomfortable,
It's
honestly.
comfy. It's comfy.
It's warm and moist.
Oh, don't say that word on the radio.
We'll bleep that out.
No, that'll sound even worse. People will be listening.
You'll
and
just need
it's-
to add a trigger warning right before I say moist.
Someone's.
This is going to be the first show with a disclaimer where
Yeah.
John says,
We're
okay, if there are kids in the car, maybe you skip this episode.
There's some gruesome words coming. Words that describe
There are some
moisture and stickiness.
There are some
See,
words
is
that are
moisture-
emotionally charged and loaded in this episode.
So last week was my pick. No,
No,
it wasn't.
Julian's.
My
It's
pick.
Jules' pick.
Jules talked about
Slump.
Dr. Slump, a
And
hilarious
so
cool-
this week, Taylor, your pick is up. So when we roll into your pick.
Mind, but inside the mind, but inside the mind. He waits with that same lonely look on his face, plus a picture.
Present day. Present time.
And you don't seem to understand. A shame you seemed an honest man. And all the
My pick was Serial Experiments Lain. It's a story about Elaine Iwakura, it's sort of a young girl, high school girl or middle school, 14, and her growing relationship with this thing called the Wired, which is sort of like the internet, but like with a way more interactive into the real world interface. And it's a lot about sort of cyberpunk blurring of the boundaries between this world and the digital one. It's a really cool anime. Came out in 98, just ran for one season. It's only 13 episodes long. Yeah, has probably my favorite character designer behind it, Yoshitoshi Abe. He did, NieA 7 and Haibane Renmei are the two that come to mind, which are really good.
We'll have to put those up because I wouldn't have no idea how to spell that based on the way you pronounced it.
Well, just ask someone for the one with it's maybe the afterlife and they're kind of maybe angels, but it's like a puberty metaphor maybe.
Oh, I've seen that.
Yeah.
It's a coming of age story, much like this one.
Wait, what is it called again?
Wait, there's an anime that's a puberty based show?
They all are.
Oh.
Didn't you know? That's what anime means. It's
Got
French
it.
for for animated menstruation.
Whoa. let's stay out of Let's steer the ship a
Let's
little
stay out of
better.
France.
Yeah, come on, guys.
Show's really great.
So sorry, I disrupted you. You were saying it was one of your favorite character designers chimed in. So good. Please, sally forth.
Oh yeah, like the art design. I mean, between everything Abe does, but especially in this particular anime, it's really strong. It's a very distinctive style. It's kind of a departure from, I think definitely the style you were getting in the 90s from anime, which is very much the bright color, the big eyes, the crazy hair. I think around the end of end of 90s, early aughts, things definitely took a change more towards this direction. But this is one of the first ones that really struck me as like, it's kind of gritty. It's got a very limited palette. The animation itself is kind of subtractive. Like you have a lot of scenes that are just kind of darkness and light and not much else detail-wise. So it's really striking visually.
Yeah, and the character design is more naturalistic.
Yeah, definitely. And how did you find it, or when did you first see it?
I first saw this back in high school when it was released in America. At the time, I was pretty much hungry for any anime I could get my hands on. But I think the thing that stuck with me with this one, and really the thing that brought me into anime to begin with, was the first anime I ever fell in love with was Sailor Moon, and that was one of the first things I encountered that had like a young teenage girl in the center of it. And so I think that's the thing that kept bringing me back to the genre, is that that's where I could find protagonists that I could directly relate to. And Lane's a great example.
Especially on a cartoon. On anime, no, seriously, in animation, it's like
Even worse.
yeah, especially here in the States, I butt up as I pitch shows all the time. I butt up against that all the time, where they're like, "It's got to be a boy." Like, what decade is this? What are you people dealing with? But go ahead, sorry.
No. I mean, that's true. Like, even though we're definitely in a super awesome renaissance of animation in America, it's still kind of a weird.
Steven Universe still has to
It's
have a
still
boy at
Steven.
the helm.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Amazing female characters surrounding him. But,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, and in this, like, I love cyberpunk, like transhumanism, like all of these thoughts packed into it. When I first saw it, it just struck me as just weird and creepy and bizarre. And I don't think my like 14, 15-year-old mind could fully wrap around all the ideas that were being put forth. Yeah. Now, like watching it again as a 30-year-old woman, I get a lot more out of it. But it's a loaded anime with a lot conspiracy theory kind of stuff, like just a lot you can pull out of it.
I guess I didn't get that far into it enough. You were talking about there's an interplay between the kind of like digital internet type of world and her real world. As it goes further along, do those lines get blurred more?
Even
I mean,
more,
how did
yeah.
Completely.
Yeah, I guess I didn't watch deep enough for that to start happening too much.
It's also like a very so I only only had time to watch about 5 episodes, and it struck me how, and even after watching 5 episodes, I was still kind of like, what is this about? Like, you know, like I'm still like, and I actually like I'm dying to watch more because I want to figure it out, you know, the show is very subtle, and there's a lot of reading between the lines. Like a lot of it seems to me that a lot of it is in the negative spaces in a way. Like there's a lot of silent moments. There's a lot of repeated symbolic visuals. There's a lot of themes that are brought up again and again. And then there's a lot of like, it definitely asks a lot of the audience, I think. Like you have to like
respects the
Yes,
audience enough
exactly.
to not spoon feed them.
Yeah, and you really have to like piece things together and put together the puzzle. But I think also there's an ambiguity to everything where you are supposed to not be sure about, you know, well, is this happening or is that a dream or is this, you know, all this kind of stuff.
Well, I have a question, Taylor. Getting into this, was it on Adult Swim or am I completely wrong that it would have aired?
I don't
on
think
that?
it was.
I don't think it. Yeah.
Where
It
did
might have
you-
been on,
So
like,
you
late
watched it
night
on
or something.
DVD or something?
I bought it on VHS.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Got it. What was Suncoast? Was that the media
Yeah.
store? Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know how well it would have flown on Adult Swim. I think even
Right.
for as good as they were as putting up some really quality animation, I think that was maybe a little bit outside of the
It's
the
a little
realm.
more
It's a slow
avant-garde.
burn. Yeah.
yeah.
It's funny because going into it, I thought I had seen it because like
The characters are very iconic that I
Yeah.
feel like I've seen before.
Yeah, and like I think the DVD cover or something, it was just around and I'd seen it a million times, and so I was like, oh, I think I've seen this, and then
Yeah,
I started
same
watching
here.
it, and I was like, oh no, I totally have not seen this.
Maybe it's just from hanging around with Holt so much. You just like, I know I've seen every cover of every anime DVD.
Yeah.
Most
And
maybe.
So it was new to me for once. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed that.
Well, that's good. I do. The style definitely is iconic in and of itself, and maybe not specifically to Abe. There's another artist that I love that goes by the name Cannabis Works that has, like, you would think it's the same guy because it's very, like, dirty sort of techno overlaid with these sort of cute, more realistic anime characters. His stuff is, if you like the design of Abe and the design of Lane, he's an artist, an illustrator that is just so on point with that. Really good.
It's also like it is somewhat dated in some way. Like it feels very 90s.
Yeah.
Like even in there were also a lot of the same themes floating around.
I think
at the same time.
I think the themes, that's an interesting thing to talk about the zeitgeist, but
Yeah.
visually the one thing that I think dates it, and I don't think that's bad, is because it also kind of puts it in a very like specific cyberpunk kind of like William Gibson like Snow Crash
Yeah.
kind of time period.
Yeah.
Is the sort of use of what at the time was sort of cutting edge After Effects stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like filters
There's
and
some
Photoshop
3D
filters.
integration as well.
Yeah, and that's like it was all early days for that being really good and really refined. So you could tell they were just experimenting, which is cool.
Yeah.
But it's a challenge because then it's like, okay, this is
And
very
it
cool.
dates
They're
it.
on Macs, but it's definitely like the technology was not as fully fleshed out as a tool. So what they were experimenting with like had limitations, I think. But I don't think it detracts. I think it sort of, yes, again, it puts it in a certain time period. But there are certain aspects to this that's good. Like you want, like what's nice is they have these computers and the Navis they interface with. Like she has this weird like red one in the beginning that's like
the kid's computer kind of.
yeah, and it's like kind of weird and cool. And her dad's on like this weird like multi-box beige machine system. And then like, at the end, the little kid has like a cell phone that's like, it's a gun handle, and he pulls the trigger and a screen pops up. Like it's this, so the tech levels are all over the place, and that's kind of good. Like everything is everywhere a little bit. And I think that helps. Like
A little
it's all
timeless, you
mesh.
mean?
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
a level of that. Like they're at this point tech-wise that it's still, even though like the effects are dated, I think the ideas are still there. Like I don't know if you guys watch Black Mirror at all.
Oh yeah,
That British
that's
show, like a
amazing
lot
show.
of a lot of the same ideas that Black Mirror plays with is Lane is playing with, and you go back to the same time, Fight Club, The Matrix, like
Exactly.
these things of like identity and technology and
Paprika.
Paprika is that's a huge
Well, or Ghost in the Shell too.
Yeah.
From the same idea.
just all these there's a zeitgeist, and
Yeah.
these guys were not animation or anime people. They were like the writer was
What about
not
the movie Strange Days with Ralph Fiennes
yes, and exactly,
Yeah.
and Lawnmower Man.
and Angela Bassett?
Hackers?
Yes. Whoa. Check out her wet works.
Has any movie ever accurately portrayed hacking? Like, 'cause it's always like something really intense and so much typing, and you're like going through this weird.
Would you like to
crap.
play a game?
Well, they in the show Mr. Robot, they actually reference that where even they are doing it as a show. They're like, no show ever gets hacking right, and meanwhile that show itself actually does all the cheap stuff that they're making fun of.
Maybe Ed does good hacking. When we get to Bebop, we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Ed
actually
hacks.
there's a pretty bad like one of those goofy 3D rendered environments in Bebop, and I think what is it, like Brain Shock or something, one of the episodes, and it's the
Yeah,
same,
yeah.
just like goofy 3D shapes, like fuzzy bright colors, random floating like Finnish road signs. It's like, this is the internet.
I like the ideas in this a lot. I'd seen Lane probably 10, 15 years ago as well, probably later, a little while after you had watched it. That sensibility of like where we are with tech, like this is before the iPhone blew up and like was everywhere. This is sort of like before everyone was as connected as we are even now. So that those like that looming presence as we were reaching towards Y2K and all this stuff was there in the.
It also just has this constant, like, it just has this vibe, kind of oppressive vibe to it. And I don't know. There's just something about it that had me question everything that was happening all the time. Where I was like her dad, like her relationship to her dad seems weird, and her dad seems weird, like he knows something, but that he's not saying, and she's so sort of like kind of like empty in a way, like, and she's just always sort of seems one step behind everything that's going on around her, and I don't know. There's just so much about it, and at the same time, there's always these like. There's these people like waiting outside her house all the time. There's just all this weird stuff going on, and I'm like, what is,
When's it gonna come together?
right? Or I don't know. It's very like just it's very slow burn, but kind of like creepy in a weird way.
Well, and I think there are several stories being told at once in this. Because, I mean, we were joking about every anime being about puberty, but this one, it is.
Yeah,
It's a girl coming into herself, becoming a god of the internet versus, just like a young lady. But that's definitely like, there are multiple layers. And I mean, the whole basis of the story being this sort of thing that dissolves the line between this world and the wired kind of, once all those pieces fall into place, you look back and it makes sense that reality is not believable because what you're witnessing is the breakdown of that. So, the difference between what's in your actual mind, what's in the computer, what you experience in reality, all of these things are starting to blur, which is definitely that sort of, new technology. How scary can we make this? Like, how far can we take this?
It's interesting, too, because it brings in the idea of, like, is Lain our portal? Can she be, if this is all through her head, can we trust or believe anything that's going on in this whole thing? Like she's the one who's usually always there, and she's the one who's perceiving everything, and her perception, she's not a reliable narrator in any way. And so that when you have something that's about, like, it's a psychological thriller and someone who's breaking down and falling apart, it's akin to maybe Perfect Blue would be like a good like comparison in terms of the psychological aspect of it. Perfect Blue is a Satoshi Kon film about a woman who is going from being a pop idol, like a Spice Girl kind of, into a solo career as like an adult actress.
Way to be current on your references there.
What's
she's kind of like one of them Supremes or something. One of those really
she's
popular
like one of those.
singer people.
She's like a Gregorian nun from. Dude, I don't think there are Gregorian nuns.
So she's like Taylor Swift.
No,
or is that already old?
No, but Taylor. Basically, she's part of a girl group.
Okay.
And going into a solo career as a full-fledged musician actress.
She's like Mel B. Right after the Spice Girls.
Beyonce. Beyonce did that.
Yeah, there you go.
Natalie Imbruglia.
No.
Something's wrong. She's torn. And she was. So she starts having these. As her life is changing, she starts having this sort of mental break and having perception issues, and it's like a Hitchcock kind of tale with that one, because it's not much tech related.
Suspense.
It's a suspense with a.
But like
with
Jules
more of
was
a
saying,
horror
though,
thing.
Lain is jam-packed with suspense.
Lain is a similar story, and it's just the tale it's telling is more in the tech world, and like you're saying, Taylor, like tech breaking down and sort of humanity as a machine, as information on a network in cells versus silicon, that sort of thing, and where can that break down? And then when you have people who are sick in the head, who have schizophrenia or whatever, they can start to have beliefs that they have wires in them, or that they're constructs, so that other people are robots. Like they start to question the reality around them, and so you have this girl who's going through that, and on top of that, like the sexuality thing comes in, where she kind of watches people in a lot of frames. There are people making out a lot, and like some people, like so two people being intimate is something that's foreign to her. There's just a lot of foreign things that are in the periphery, and those it's just like symbology that there's symbols that are saying like, hey, this is what's looming on top of this tech problem. These are the pressures beyond just the paranoia and other aspects. This is the other stuff that's crushing this young woman.
Well, and you see, one thing that really strikes me is her interaction with her family, where in a lot of episodes, they don't, like, when they address it, they don't even make eye contact. And that's a very clear choice that they're making in the direction of the anime. And it kind of, almost as much as you think, you know, we have the real world on one side and this Wired on the other side. One you'd picture as cold and mechanical and one you'd picture as warm, but it's quite the opposite.
Right.
Like, she finds connection and she finds herself, and, you know, even like when you see the you know, like the couples like making out and dancing, it's all like in Siberia. It's all in connection with the Wired, whereas her real life, quote unquote, is incredibly like cold and disconnected.
Yeah.
And even her father, when he is looking at her, he's the one who has glasses, and usually there's light blocking
The
his
classic
eyes.
anime.
Yeah, and I think that's like
Gendo
it's like a
Ikari.
force field. It's something. It's
No.
like protecting him from her.
And he is the one that kind of introduces us to like World Online, and he's the one that's in the family who's always on computers at first, and he's like, and it seems to be that his life is online. Like that's how you're kind of introduced to him.
And there's also the aspect of the sisters. Like she has an older sister who is like she's in a relationship with some guy, or seems like she's kind of like having these encounters and not being fulfilled by them. And that's psychosis is coming into play, and that there might be this thing in their family where they kind of have, you know, some issues. So it's really, I mean, it's a 13 episode romp. It's like
Yeah, I can't believe it's only 13 episodes.
Yeah.
Because considering how, like, you know, that I'm, I guess, like a third of the way through, I'm like, how can they finish this, you know?
Well, and they really never fully pull back the veil. Like, you get a pretty clear understanding of what is going on, but there's a lot of
Ambiguity.
Yeah, I think my favorite weird little scene is the alien outside of her door wearing like a flannel shirt, or like a little black and red striped shirt.
he's kind of like Freddy Krueger-y.
never really is explained. Like, it's referenced. I didn't notice this until the second time I was watching that they actually reference it. You're hearing some weird overlay of like a hysterical man talking about an alien.
Like Area 51. And
Yeah. And then later you see it, and it's like, oh, okay, well, he's out there somewhere. I love that. This little alien peeking in the door.
Yeah, and part of that too is like concepts that belief can create gods, or that belief can create like collective consciousness creating power, and like Jungian ideas of like synchronicity and collective consciousness. There's a lot of that, like this whole sort of, I guess it becomes like Buddhist a little bit too, where there's a world of thought, and the Wired is like a representation of that in some part, or a simulacrum.
Well, in a way, I mean, in a way that you know, it's very Buddhist in that, you know, in many versions of the Buddhist religion, you know, we are all just, you know, everything is an illusion. Right. You know what I mean? So everything we see and hear is just a construct of our brains, because our brains can't conceive the real reality. And so that's definitely already playing with that.
Yeah.
But Teylor, as Sailor Moon was your entree.
My gateway drug.
And then what was in between this Sailor Moon and this? How did you get to going from like what's on TV to I'm going to seek this out?
Well, I think, you know, there was definitely just at that point anything that was being released, kind of, if I could afford it, I would buy it and watch it. You know, a lot of things you get one or two VHS into, I'm like, nah, that's not really for me. But I definitely was actively seeking out things with like female characters, like female protagonists. I would say a little bridge for me was like Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Yeah.
That was a huge one for me, and kind of allowed me to watch something
on
like
white
Lain.
VHS tapes.
Oh yeah. Did all the pictures line up on one side? I feel like maybe
I
they
think
did.
so. That sounds familiar.
Yeah, I've always,
VHS
but
tapes.
like the cerebral animes, the ones that definitely with a lot of gray area and with, you know, a lot of
ambiguity.
Sort of,
So, as an artist, did this influence you much, like in the storytelling, visually, or what do you feel like you took from? Is there anything you took from this show in particular, or anime in general?
It's definitely like storytelling wise. I try to do what I think this show does really well. I mean, I make comic books, but there's a term in comics which is the blood in the gutter, and that's kind of what happens between panels that you don't necessarily have to show, that you kind of put in your audience's mind.
Oh, that's cool.
And if you're doing it well, they kind of will fill in the blanks, but hopefully not so tightly that they don't have some sort of sense of
Wiggle room.
Yeah, and I think that that's definitely one of these where I think of 10 people could watch this show and come up with 10 different similar but not at all the same interpretations, and I like storytelling that leaves those conversations you have the next day, like, what does this mean though?
Yeah. And room for a director's cut when you want to do like an extra release.
Exactly.
Where did they go to the bathroom? Watch on our 4-hour extended director's cut.
Every single sequence. No.
Everything explained.
Along this line of questioning, are there still things that you're watching and or viewing or reading now that are a direct evolution of this or a direct result of some of this? Or what are you reading now that might be manga and or anime inspired, if anything?
Well, I mean, I think that even in the American market, like, that stuff is so, like,
permeated.
Oh, yeah. I think that, like, Image has so many amazing comics right now, and a lot of them have very different types of stories being told that I don't think would be happening if we didn't have that. I think more that anime proved in America that different kind of stories could sell.
Yeah.
But definitely one that carries on this sort of mind screw techno stuff that is really awesome about Lain is Steins Gate. It's an anime. It's I think it came out maybe 2-3 years ago. It might be newer than that. But it's really great time travel anime. Loops in on itself. A little bit more humor in that one for sure. Loops back on itself in really interesting ways. I think that if you're a fan of sci-fi and cyberpunk, that's really, really appealing. Also, the main character is sort of like Rick from Rick and Morty as an anime character. So
It's called Steins Gate?
Steins Gate.
How do you spell Stein?
I think it's Steins. Well, and actually, Rick
Like
and Morty
Frankenstein.
Yeah. But Rick and Morty is another one that's like
Yeah.
really smart and super dark and kind of comes in like a cute package, but then just completely destroys you.
Yeah, the pitch on that was we want to do basically Marty and Doc, and Doc is an alcoholic and trying to ruin Marty's life all the time.
Well, have you ever seen the original? Channel 101 was the Rob Schrab and Dan Harmon were making like shorts and stuff, and
Just putting them out.
Yep. That's where the first, in fact, I think it was just a straight up spoof of Back to the Future characters.
Yeah, I think it was called Doc and Morty.
Yeah.
Straight up, yeah.
Cool.
Super dirty, super disturbing.
Yep. Lain, beautiful, amazingly beautiful, and I like the 3D stuff. Especially the openers got some really neat, fun.
2.5D stuff too.
And pretty good tunes too.
Oh yeah.
Like the
Duvet does the opening track, right?
Duvet
is the opening track.
Bo
and
is the
Bo
band.
is the band.
I mean, again, very like of its time, but good. Like would get kind of stuck in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I saw them play at Otakon, I think in maybe like 99, 2000 in Baltimore.
Awesome.
But the other thing I'd forgotten is because this was true of all of them. They all animes have very are committed to their opening and closing sequences. Like they're full songs, and they're long.
You're in it. Yeah.
I did want to note the art director was Matsuro Sato. Masaru Sato. He was this art director on His and Her Circumstances, which was one of my probably one of my favorite anime.
Soap opera animes.
Soap opera, ha ha ha. Comedy manga.
Yes.
Mangaka. I liked.
Oh wait. I'm mixing that up. What's the other one? The His and Her Circumstances. And what was the other? Caricon.
Well, they're the same thing.
No. What's the one where they ran out of money and they had to just
That's His and Her Circumstance. Okay. Yeah. That's all the same thing.
Dude, watch that episode starting like episode 19 or so, 18.
Yeah. They ran out of money and they just have illustrations on popsicle sticks.
No.
Yeah.
It's brilliantly done.
It's amazing. And then the last few episodes are just stills and
they have this they often cut to this they often cut to this guy who's just 3 frames from a Xerox machine.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's
it's a guy's face on a Xerox machine, flapping his mouth, and he's a character in it. When they cut to it.
Yeah, that's I really liked that series, and I was glad that he had a hand in this because a lot of the background work I think was that's kind of his thing. He does a lot of that. So and we're working from treated photo for backgrounds.
I was confusing it with Azamanga Deo.
Oh yeah,
that's the one.
Another great
Confusing.
one.
Yeah.
And the latest Yatsuba, which is his new series. There's no anime for that yet, but Yatsuba is probably my favorite thing right now. I'll talk about that later.
And it is like a TV budget show, because I think we've made references to a lot of like feature films that have like way better budgets. So like I don't want to get people's expectations up too high, but I think they do.
We did bring up his and her circumstances, so I think
yes, that's
I think people's expectations are just right.
There's a little warning. There's like a shooting in the club in this one, and it's kind of prescient. Like, again, this is just at or before Columbine, and is also like, we've had more and more of it now. The way you see people, like it's almost like spectator-y, and the way people are talking about it afterwards, like part of that's just showing how she interacts with the world, but part of it's just this like there's a level of detachment they're kind of playing with because of the technology. They're saying everyone's starting to get wired, and so when this terrible thing happens, when people are talking about it and talking about tragedy, like when her friends are talking, you start to wonder, like, hey, are these people sociopaths? Like, are they disconnected from reality? Like, they just saw someone get shot and killed, and they're asking, like, oh, did you see it? Did you see it?
So it's actually just like our world right now. It was paving the way for the future of a disconnected, connected world.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's got some warning signs for that, and I think that's when they were writing it, they were saying like, hey, we don't think a Western audience is going to get this. Like, they aren't going to understand like what it means to have technology like attacking you and foisted on you and changing your world and like they didn't think that the concepts would read, but it's something that
they do now. 15 years
even
later.
before,
That's very true.
At the time too, the Western world did understand it, and they were kind of disappointed that people were like that got it. But it's good. I think that's good that yes, there's a message in there, and it's hidden, well hidden, but it's good, and it's like I like the whole like I don't want people to be technophobes, but definitely being aware of where technology starts to break.
It's all lawnmower man. It's all lawnmower man.
That's right.
Well, it is kind of weird though, because it definitely shows like it's definitely a cautionary tale, but at the same time, the technology is kind of her way out, like her way to find herself and to be happy and like at peace. So I don't know if it's maybe once again that's that gray area that you can kind of like in one sense it's almost like a monster movie as you see her computer like growing and like spreading like tentacles everywhere. Yeah, exactly. But then it's also kind of her home that she finds. So I don't know. You know,
it's also
her sanctuary.
It's interesting too because this is I mean like I think it's just because they've gotten better diagnosis techniques and like redefinitions, but like autism and the sort of spectrum of like what's the other? It's like autism, Asperger's, like those sort of like those I don't know what they are classifications. This predates that in a way, I think.
Well, the mid '90s they were really starting to get onto the whole concept of a spectrum. So yeah, it was pretty early for that.
Yeah, so it's interesting to me that this is someone who, again, like you kind of hear these stories of people like the only way I could connect to my child is through the Disney movies. Like we try to find this passage of communication, this way to like draw someone who isn't connected, like quote normally, like there's some way to find them and like pull them out and kind of like understand them. And so it's interesting to kind of this thing that could also destroy everybody in some regards for her in her world is a tool to like save her as an individual. And that's I guess that's some of the choices she's given in the story is like, what are you going to do? It's similar to what Neo is given as choices.
She's the one. That's true.
So how can people watch Lain now?
It's on Hulu.
And you can probably buy it on Amazon and all those places. That's what's good. Things are accessible.
Yeah.
Except Dr. Slump.
Yeah, except for Dr. Slump. But yeah, I gotta give credit. Like Hulu seems to be like anime central. Like every, I think most of the picks we're having in this theme are on Hulu, which really impressed me. And both dubs and subs in many occasions.
Yeah. Speaking of which, did you watch it subbed or dubbed?
I watched it subtitled.
Okay, cool. Good.
Yeah, dude.
I recommend that because I did accidentally click. I watched the first one subbed, and then I clicked on the next one, and it was accidentally the dub, and it was terrible.
Well,
So-
one review
Well,
I
for those
saw.
of you out there, subbed means subtitled. Dubbed means
Dub title.
yeah.
Subtitle.
No, I think that I don't think that these terms are
No,
ubiquitous. I
you're
think.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. That's true. Thank you for
But
clarifying.
to anyone's defense, the Lane is a very visual show. Like the dialogue is important, but it's not. There isn't a lot of dialogue. It's a
true.
very
That
visual
is true.
show.
It's very true.
And again, you touched on, there are moments where you're just, the whole scene is a window that's like a quarter of the frame with a character silhouetted in black. It's amazing art, lots of good shadows, good shadow pass. You don't, if you're gonna watch it dubbed, that's fine because there isn't a lot of dialogue. That's some of the reviews that people have said is like it doesn't really matter. But
I could see that.
yeah, because then what subtitles can be distracting because then you aren't focusing on the art as much because you're
true.
reading the titles.
That's an
But-
excellent point.
So I don't want
But a
to.
bad dub can also be distracting because it hurts your soul.
Well, it also just makes you never want to watch it.
Well, I've started to provide dubs. Go to
Oh,
John
perfect.
Dubs.
There were a lot of
Cue
bad
them up.
dubs from this area of translation, I feel like mid to late 90s when stuff was coming over, but we didn't really have a lot of talented
Yeah.
voice
Yeah,
actors.
and I think also they were just like trying to feed the demand, and so they were kind of rushing it and just like spitting
Yeah,
it
it's
out
funny.
there.
A lot of the
We actually worked with some dudes who did that, like whose their main business was
so
doing
like
those dubs.
a friend of Sean Schimmel,
Mhm.
he was Goku, and what else is he? Well, he still does Dragon Ball stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
But he was like him and like Laura Bailey, who's like really big now. Like they all started in Texas doing
Really?
doing Dragon Ball and doing like early like 4Kids stuff.
I didn't know they started in Texas. That's
Yeah, that's because that's where they were. Speaking of Texas, I didn't say this. Harmony Gold tried to bring Dr. Slump over back in a while. They brought the pilot. It didn't work out, but Harmony Gold are the guys who brought out Robotech / Macross Plus.
Gotcha.
But they tried to. But anyhow, another Texas, I think, or Florida, I don't know, Southern Midwestern based company who brought anime over. But yeah, there's this whole crew of people who kind of got their start and know each other as voice actors from working in Dragon Ball and doing the 4Kids stuff in Texas. But yeah, there's no end of that work.
Yeah. Really nice guy, Sean Schimmel, too.
Yeah.
Really cool. Very talented dude.
One of the good ones.
Yeah. What does that even mean?
Good dubbers. One of the good dubbers.
Okay.
Because I've been dissing dubs, you
yeah.
know?
Yeah, Jules was having fun saying how a lot of dubs are bad, but we're saying, hey, man, Sean Schimmel, he brings some life into this
Yeah.
character. He makes it his own.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of passionate good people, and that's the thing too.
There are some passionate good people.
No, but
some passionate
a lot
good
of
people.
a lot of the dub people who are also producing them and often giving some of the voices are the ones who are like helping bring them over, and like they wouldn't, like a lot of these shows wouldn't get distributed if these people weren't like doing it on favors or cheap. Like they're just crunching this stuff out. So yes, there's the distribution deals, but there's also the work to get it out there, and some people who are passionate will work to help get the stuff over. So
I think there's also some like just cultural challenges. Like there's certain anime like voice types that just you cannot translate it. If you were to act it in the same way but with an American voice actor, it would just be bizarre.
Yeah.
But it works, and when you hear the original, like
yeah, there's two. There's the one that's I can't do it with my cold. I made up. There's the one that's very high. It's like I'm not gonna do any language because it's like super offensive. But like it's like it gets very, it's like a high,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
kind of squeak, but it sounds natural. And then there's the guys like,
Yeah.
and that's like they're both
yeah,
they
super
both sound-
deep and super like forceful and
Yeah.
but
Earnest.
like if you were
they
to
both
translate it,
sound
it's-
natural in the natural tongue and
Yeah.
with the natural intonation. And I don't like someone else doing it like, hey, how's it going?
Yeah, yeah.
Or hey, what are you doing? What's going on?
This reminds me of the... Yeah, it's like that. Yeah.
You'll never find your way out, Gatsu.
There's one thing that I love in Japanese voice acting is the Osaka dialect, and it's just super fun, really fast, kind of has a lot of slang to it. And there's one of my favorite animes, Shigeyugi. I watched it subtitled, but then we switched the dubs just to check them out. There's one character that has a very awesome voice actor in the Japanese one, really thick Osaka Ben. And I guess if you wanted to find a parallel, maybe it's like a Southern drawl in America, but it's definitely not. And so they translated this guy, and he's like, "What in tarnation?" And it's like, "Oh no, it's so offensive." I respect that they made that parallel, but it just doesn't work.
Oh, that's a bummer.
So we've beat up enough dub actors.
I'm sorry.
They're doing their best.
Yeah.
Well, some of them are.
Talked them up.
Some of them
You
are.
talked them up.
But thanks for the pick. It was great to
Yeah.
watch. It was great to go back and watch Serial
One I
Experiments Lain
totally
again.
had never seen or heard of. I mean,
Yeah, and-
like Jules said, I felt like I had seen something about it, but
And I'm totally hooked. I'm definitely going to finish it.
Are there any other picks? Like, if someone were to watch that, where would you send them next? What do you think is the next point?
Well, I definitely think you could stick with Abe stuff. I mean, I think that if you like the style, there's a lot more anime that he did the character design on that kind of has the same palette, and I think even some of the same sort of different style of storytelling. I mean, obviously, if you like cyberpunk and you haven't seen Ghost in the Shell or Akira, those are sort of standout ones that's sort of covers the basis.
yeah, always start with Akira if you're getting into anime. If you want to be blown away.
Yeah, man, that might be.
I
a
think
make or
Paprika.
break.
Have you seen Paprika?
I actually haven't seen Paprika. have you?
You might really like
That's a good
Paprika.
one.
That
That's a
and
real
talk
good
about a tour de force as far as animation. It's
Yeah,
one of the best.
You know, one that a similar time period as Lane was Boogie Pop Phantom. Not techno related, but really spooky, really understated. A lot of kind of the same, just creepy feel to the whole thing. So.
Cone did a series too with like a boy with a baseball bat that would chase people around.
Oh.
Paranoia Agent.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
a great
I
one.
saw
Yeah.
that one. Yeah, that
we
was
were
a good one.
we were talking about that not long ago.
Oh, really?
I thought I had it confused with Bleach.
Oh.
Remember, I was like,
mean, there's
no,
a-
that's
it's
the
like-
one with the kid with the baseball bat. Which one is that one?
Yeah, the ghost kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, he's like dead and has a sword.
Mm-hmm. Same thing.
Well, actually, did anybody else watch Madoka Magica?
I don't know that one.
That's it. Comes across as a magical girl anime, and I'm not super into those now as an adult. But you get to episode 4, and it goes crazy. Definitely like
love it.
super weird, super
man,
existential.
that sounds good.
Yeah.
I love that in series. That's one thing also that I love about not many. There aren't many, but there are some. There are a few examples of anime that I've seen where you think the series is going one way, and then like after just 4 or 5 episodes, it's just like, nope. You know, even his and her circumstance, like we talked about, it just takes. It just
wild.
jumps off the cliff.
Well, I mean,
In a
that's-
good way.
That's why I like
Like a cliff diver.
Berserk a lot.
Yeah.
As well, is that it shows you the first episode, and then it's like, you know, this is where we're gonna be.
No, but we never get there.
No, I know, but that's okay. Like, you're just like, here's where you're gonna be. We're gonna show you the journey, and then
Yeah.
go read the manga if you want to figure anything.
Yeah.
out.
If you've ever seen Berserk, that is a rad series, but it's
It's
talk
totally
about
violent and goofy.
Yeah, misogynistic and
Oh yeah, it's terrible. It's the worst series I've ever seen.
no way, no way.
But check it out.
It's there's a level of indulgence in Berserk.
Yeah, but it's certainly not the worst.
No, it's the
And
but
there's-
but in terms of like making you love characters, like that's something like you're talking about, like bringing not even storytelling into comics, but also storytelling into, I think, television and episodic
Yeah,
telling, like taking heroes or taking characters who everyone loves and these archetypes that like are gonna survive, and being like, no, they don't drive the story goes where it's gonna go, and the characters are gonna die, or they're gonna be like they're beholden to the story a little bit. So your Walter Whites like you get great terrible antiheroes, and you get these stories of, you know, Game of Thrones where people are being killed off who you've loved because that's what the story
Demand.
wants.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think anime
Has been
doesn't
doing for
shy
a long-
away from.
Yeah, and they've
at
been
all.
doing that for a long time. Yeah.
And you know, I like it.
Has so much anime.
yeah. I remember in that what was the in One Piece when they just killed the whole pirate crew, like in the
Yep.
3rd episode.
Yep.
That was crazy. I never thought that.
I know,
would
and then
happen.
there were 700 more episodes.
Yeah, one that I think despicably did that was Gurren Lagann for me, and I won't spoil anything, but it took me a long time to sit back down and finish it after you know what I'm talking about.
I still haven't heard that, but I've been recommended that
That's-
by a lot of people.
That's
It's great.
It's the one with the like robots with like mouths and stuff.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it's a great anime, and that studio also did Kill la Kill, which was another great
that one's
one.
huge. Yeah.
Oh, Great studio, great anime, and I still hold that against them though.
They did that to you.
They did that to me.
Thank
Don't we
you,
think?
Taylor.
For
But
sure.
we're not going to let you off the hook. We're going to make you come back and
One
keep
more
talking
week.
more anime.
Beautiful.
Or 2 more weeks of anime.
2 more weeks.
There's so much anime out there.
That's right. It's true.
Such a question, there are many possible answers, such as hard work.
Feel I'm alone in this hole of existence. I know it takes time, but I'm.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for listening to another episode of the New to You Show. I am one of your hosts, John Holt. You can find me on Twitter at Lord Joho. You can find me on Snapchat at NotDeadJohn. And I probably have a website. My reel is old. My reel is from 2013.
Yeah.
So you can find another podcast that I'm working on called BoardGhost.com on BoardGhost.com. It's a it's a game podcast with RPG stuff. Yes, with me this week
Is Julian Cage. You can find me on Twitter at Beautiful Jules. How about you,
And
Keith?
Keith Vincent. You can find some of my art and sketches on earthlingkeith.tumblr.com.
And I also do another podcast called Still Buffering. It's a Sisters Advice podcast for teenagers, and you can find my art at taylorsmerle.tumblr.com.
All right, and Taylor's done
And
some
follow
sweet
her.
posters for like tours. We got to, actually, me and Jules saw you on stage
Oh,
at the New York show.
nice.
It was awesome.
It's a lot of fun.
And it's not just for teenagers, it's also for people who want to understand teenagers better.
That's true.
right.
That's very true.
Which is everyone.
Which is all of us, right?
I mean, I never was one, but like,
Skip
I
that
understand it's a
step.
cool time.
yeah, sounds great.
I think it's just like animes.
Yeah, that's where I've gotten all
Yeah.
my teenager information from to this point.
You get a giant robot, you get superpowers, it's, you know.
You know, you just never get out of the house alive if you watch the videotape.
Correct. But anyway, tune in next week. We're gonna have another. Awesome pick.
Yeah,
From one of us.
I think it'll be.
I think it'll be you, John.
It'll
I think
be
you're
me.
on deck.
Sure, I'll be on deck with Beck from one of our more recent shows. And if you want to find out more about the shows that we talked about this week, if you want to find links to the stuff we talked about, go to the website, newtoyoushow.com, or follow us on Twitter if you want to find out news about the show, go at newtoyoushow on Twitter. And yeah, rate and review on iTunes. We're also on YouTube, probably under John Holt for some reason, because that's what my
Hey, it works.
Google goes to.
That's your
But if
name?
you just look for New to You Show, I'll link it on the website as well, and on the Twitter, and on all the stuff that people
Yeah.
do. I'll Snapchat
So
it
thank
to
you for
everyone
listening.
individually.
And if you like it, why don't you put some comments up somewhere
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
on one of the. We
let
got
us,
lots. We're
let
on
us
lots
know
of
what
stuff.
anime we should watch that we aren't watching yet.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good
Write
one.
it in kanji. We don't know katakana yet.
Somebody will teach us. Google Translate.
Just Chinese characters, please. That's all we do.
All right. Well, thank you for listening.
Yeah. Hey, gang. It may not be new.
Maybe it's new to you. Explosion sound.
It's all about the music.
Be with him together forever, without the limitation of time ever again. So the second coming of the Lord is not dead. They're two separate entities.